Hello guys, today we're going to be doing a video on F122 using a variety of GPUs, but we're going to be starting it off with a GTX 750 Ti, and if you like what you see, a sub to the channel would be highly appreciated. What is this? What? Okay, see if this works now. We got a black screen before. Can't skip this, it's kind of worrying how we got a black screen in the background. Oh no. Okay, so this is unplayable. The game has a couple of bugs. There's a sound bug with the RTX 3080 that I did a video on, and it just straight up doesn't work with the 750 Ti. Just gets a black screen. Alright, moving on to the next card, GTX 1050 Ti. Jumping up to the GTX 1050 Ti now. I'm going to be sticking to medium settings. There we go. The keyboard control scheme is pretty bad. It's A to drive and Z to slow down, and it's the arrows to turn. And not the actual normal arrows, it's combo and full stop, I guess, is what you gotta use. I just looked at the keyboard. That's pretty weird for a keyboard control scheme. 90 FPS at 1080p. So we could probably push it up to high settings. There we go, now we're actually falling into the 50s, high 50s, 60s. Eventually you're gonna have to drive in the rain, and at that point you will definitely fall. I can't drive with keyboard and mouse. You will fall into the 50s and 40s probably when it's heavy rain, so you want to keep that in mind. Ideally you should probably play a mix between a medium and high with this card to get a great experience, but even then, playing in the high 50s is still running fantastic. Let's go to move on to the GTX 1060 now. Jumping up to the GTX 1060, we're going to be using the ultra high preset, and obviously no ray tracing, and these are our settings. Alright, let's jump into the race. I know the controls this time, so I won't mess it up. Let's go. Oh yeah, this card's running real nice. 70 FPS. Ultra preset. It's cutting it a bit. It's cutting it a bit close to 60, and you know how much your FPS will drop when you drive in a rainy day. It's like 20-30 FPS with a 3080 anyway. So here we might lose like 10-20 FPS once you drive on a heavy rainy day. The frame time graph is a bit choppy, but the game's feel is actually very nice. You definitely have some room to play at 1440p lower medium as well. So if you want to play at a high resolution, you definitely can with this game and this card. Alright. Let's go ahead and jump up to the RTX 3050 now. Jumping up to the RTX 3050, we're going to be starting off with the high preset, and these are our settings. This is what the game chose for the settings by default, and for the 1060 it chose ultra high for its default, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, starting off with the high settings, we'll try ray tracing and DLSS as well. Let's jump into it. We'll see how it runs with ray tracing, because with the 3080 we tanked quite a bit of our FPS immediately once we actually enable ray tracing. Oops, okay, I gotta learn how to drive, I guess. The keyboard and mouse controls aren't even that bad, to be honest. The keys that they chose for the controls are a bit whack, but actually controlling the car with it is not that bad at all. It's very manageable. Obviously a wheel or keyboard or mouse would be, a wheel or a controller would be a little better, but still. Getting 130 FPS. Game is running real nice like all the other cards, minus the GTX 750 Ti. But yeah, running great. Let's go ahead and push it up to ultra high with ray tracing. This will be interesting. I feel like we're going to drop below 60, but ultra high settings, ray tracing enabled. Let's go. Getting 45 FPS. Honestly, it doesn't feel too bad, but the driving feels a bit delayed now. The key presses feels a bit delayed, but other than that, it feels pretty good. Warning, I had to move my hand for a second. Alright. Yeah, it feels smooth enough. A bit laggy, to be honest, like with the key inputs. But other than that, it feels fine. Let's go ahead and enable DLSS. DLSS set to quality. Let's test it out. Okay, game looks very blurry. It looks pretty blurry now, especially in the distance. You can see it doesn't look as clear as it was before. So I would probably avoid using DLSS at 1080p, and I would avoid using ray tracing as well if you don't want to play at 40 FPS. One thing that we can do is we can go ahead and disable ray tracing and disable DLSS and see how it performs compared to the GTX 1060. And as we can see, we're getting 1010 FPS. I said 110, doesn't make any sense. We're getting 110 FPS, 120 FPS, so it's a 50 FPS jump, 40 to 50 FPS jump compared to the GTX 1060. I know in the Fall Guys video, the 1060 was pretty much very similar to the RTX 3050 and it was really weird, but normally the RTX 3050 will do way better than a 1060. Plus we get ray tracing and DLSS as well. Getting 75 FPS, look at that. The game looks way better as well. The image looks way sharper. If I enable ray tracing, oh, this corner is a mess, man. Every time. Okay, you know what, that's my fault. Once we enable ray tracing, we're gonna fall into the 30s probably. VRAM is sitting at 6 gigs. Wow, this game is VRAM hungry. Which means we only have 2 gigs left, so 4K might be out of the question for ultra settings. Even at 30 FPS. Maybe DLSS will give us some headroom since it's rendering it at a low resolution, but I guess we'll see. Ray tracing, getting 40 FPS, so wow, that's pretty nice. We're sitting in the 30s to 40s with ray tracing enabled at ultra settings, so it's actually not that bad at all. Enabling DLSS, the game looks slightly blurry, but not too bad actually. It does look pretty good. And we're getting 60 FPS with ray tracing and the game set to ultra settings. This is way better than 1080p for sure. But this is actually fine, to be honest. I wouldn't complain about this. It's not as sharp. It doesn't look like it's running a native 1440p, but it still does look great and runs great as well. Alright, 4K ultra settings, no ray tracing, getting 44 FPS. Not bad, actually. VRAM is sitting at 7 gigs, so we have under a gig left of our VRAM. But yeah, game looks great, runs pretty decent as well. Now playing at 4K ultra settings with balanced DLSS, the game looks very good, no blurriness that I can see, and we're getting 60 FPS. I tried quality settings as well and we were sitting at 55 FPS, so we gained like 6 FPS between quality and balanced DLSS. Enabling ray tracing, oh, it feels so laggy now. The low 40s with the keyboard and mouse, you can't react as quickly to corners, so you take the corners late. But I guess if you practice enough, you'll get used to it. So yeah, without ray tracing, we're gonna probably be running it in the 20s, so I don't even want to test that out. Yep, getting 20 FPS without DLSS. Pretty unplayable, I gotta say. It is what it is, ultra settings, ray tracing, 4K. I guess technically it can play it, just not very well without DLSS. Alright, that's it for the video guys. I hope you enjoyed, hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a like and a subscribe, I would highly appreciate it.